Okay, this is a quick introduction. We're going to give you the complete Tar episode. We were so passionate. We're supposed to do 10 minutes on Tar, Molly.
Mm-hmm.
We did an hour.
This is an hour.
This is not a movie show,
Which is appropriate because the movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, I mean, if you just even want to scratch the surface, you gotta.
All right. So this is just a bonus.
This a little bit.
This is a bonus episode. We're going to label this episode This Week in Streaming, but we're going to give you the entire Tar breakdown. So you got 20 minutes last week on Thursday. We're going to play the 20 minutes from that. So if you heard it already, you can fast forward. And then the last 40 minutes of the discussion, just a little stocking stuffer for you. Let us know what you think about an hour on the film Tar. And if you see it, let us know what you think. Molly, Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a great one right now.
Enjoy, everybody.
Enjoy,
hope you have a great time with your families.
As long as you're in this mood, I feel like it's a good time to hit you with A.O. Scott. Let's talk about Tar. As long as you're all fired up. Now, we made a promise after our viral kerfuffle vis-a-vis the A.O.
Scott Gate.
Top 10 movies of the year list.
A.O. Scott Gate.
A.O. Scott Gate. We made a vow that we would watch these 10 films. I'm going to go ahead and predict we're going to watch 2, maybe 3, but we have all watched the second.
All 10. I'm definitely going to get to all 10.
I'm going to try. I'm going to get to 7.
I'm in do my dance.
You're ready to kill yourself.
I've already seen 4.
I need an assistant. I need an assistant to watch these movies for me.
I think I'm already 4 out of 10 down, so I'm doing great.
All right,
I've seen Neptune Frost, Tar, Flux Gourmet, and then Nope.
You must have seen Nope.
Even one more.
All right. Well, this is your job, and you're 40% through. It's not our job. It is your job. You're one of the great commentators on film.
It's true. It's your job.
Right.
Okay, but so it's your calling, if you will.
We
watched Neptune Frost. Last week we talked about Neptune Frost. We all liked it so much better. 2 of you loved it. I liked it. Like we were we were the literal critic to consumer split. Jason wrote a very eloquent review and surprised us all. Thank God. By not.
Much better review than A.O. Scott's, just in terms of pros and insights. But keep going.
Bullet dodge there. This week, we're back for another review. We all watched number 6 on the list, which is Todd Field's Tar, starring Cate Blanchett, Naomi Merlant, and Nina Haas. The film got a critic score of 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and an audience score of 72%. It is about a moment in the life of Lydia Tarr, who is a renowned composer at the height of her career before the tables turn as her past catches up with her and her life begins to spiral.
Okay.
That's the setup. And now we'll talk about do we want a little go around the horn? What did we all think?
That sounds wise.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll go last.
Okay.
I'll go last.
I'll go. I loved it. I think this is it is clearly one of the best movies of the year. One of the most expansive. There is a movie it really reminds me of that not enough people have seen. Let me know if you guys have seen it. Kenneth Lonergan, the guy who did You Can Count on Me. He's the writer director. It's called Margaret. Anna Paquin is in it. It's I think from 2011, and it's this very expansive, long movie, 3-hour drama. That's just a character study of this young girl played by Anna Paquin. It's stuff like a dramatic thing happens to her during the movie. So it's not like nothing happens.
Yeah.
But it's really not about what happens so much as it is about the extremely complex emotions and aftermath that it has and how it impacts her life. And it's almost like this coming of age kind of thing, but it's so universal. It's really about all sorts of just what it is to be alive at this moment in your life and have things happen to you. And that's what Tar kind of reminded me of. It is about, there are things happening to Cate Blanchett. It has a narrative thread, but I think it's about everything. It's really about power and control and influence and regret and guilt and how all of these things sort of interact and play around with each other in an adult's life.
It's very much about her. It is all her, the whole thing. Okay, so I will say, so you are give it a number.
Oh, are we doing one to 10?
Hold scores. Let's do our qualitative feelings on it.
Right.
Then we'll go to specific. Let's do this. We'll do our qualitative feelings on it around the horn.
Then we'll go
into specific scenes, specific moments. That will be spoiler territory.
Right. Good call.
And then we'll give scores at the end to keep the audience engaged.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan here. Okay. So Molly, your general feelings about the film.
Pre-spoiler. I mean, I will say that movies are too long. Just generally, especially in the age of streaming. Like if you're sitting, like I was, my son is not home. I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and watch this movie. Now, you will, knowing me as you do, appreciate that this is colored by the fact that all during this 1 hour and 59-minute movie, so it's whatever it is, or no, more than 159 minutes. It's over 2 hours.
It's a solid
2 hours and 40 minutes.
2:30. Yeah.
2:38 is what I kept saying because I kept. Yeah. And then all throughout this 2 hours and 40 minutes, my brother was texting me because he got to watch the new John Ryan series or Jack Ryan series. So he's watching that, which is my favorite genre. And I'm watching 2 hours and 40 minutes of Cate Blanchett. It is like, that is all you're getting, by God. You have some good tertiary characters and she's amazing. But if you are either in or not in on Cate Blanchett and her performance here, I was in. And there are things about it. The more I read about it after it ended, the more intrigued I was. I found it to be a bit of it was a little too long. It was like a bit of a slog.
No problem.
I didn't hate it. I really like it and I like what it was doing. I just don't have that kind of attention. I'm adult ADHD over here.
No problem. That's honest. That's honest. Films, different films appeal to different people.
She's phenomenal.
I have a very important announcement to make. Many of you have known that I have told everybody quite clearly, and this whole A.O. Scott gate, the kerfuffle, the Donnybrook, this entire Donnybrook, this craziness has all started with him leaving Maverick, the best film of the year, not even in his top 10. Him putting it, I believe, as number 6 on his list. Right? It's number 6. Can I please confirm?
I think so.
Tar is number 6. Yeah, it's number 6.
Okay. This proves A.O. Scott's incompetence.
You wouldn't have seen this if not for him.
No, I would have seen it. I heard the buzz.
Okay.
Oh, you would
I will
not
explain.
have.
This is clearly, and I haven't seen the other 8 films yet, but for him to put Neptune Frost as number 2, and this as number 6, shows the complete, absolute incompetence of A.O. Scott.
Oh, God.
Because
this is definitely the last time we're doing this segment.
Because this film, I'm allowed to have my opinion. I'm allowed to have my opinion about
A.O.
Scott. He can have his opinion about mine. And what I'm embracing here is what I'm learning through this process is that top 10 lists and film criticism is the greatest honeypot in the world. I'm leaning into it. This is tied with Top Gun Maverick for the best picture of the year. Wow. This film is going to become not only this year's number 1 film across the board, or tied with Maverick in my mind. Not only will this be number 1 or 2 on everybody's list, etc. When they make the top 10 films of this decade, this will be on that list, and it will be high on that list. This film will age in it, and its importance at this moment in time will grow. Now, let me explain. And we're not doing spoilers right now. The film is about a problematic Cate Blanchett, who, as a female, lesbian, abusive, horrible, but brilliant conductor. Let's leave it at that. That's not going to spoil the film for you. This is all revealed in the first couple of minutes. It's in the trailer. She puts on a performance that will be the best performance of her career and one of the best performances in the last 20 years in any film. She's extraordinary in it. The filmmaking is unbelievable. There are memorable scenes in this. There are monologues. There are 2 sentences. There are moments that we will talk about and debate at dinner parties all year long. And that's one of my criteria. May not be A.O. Scott's. I don't understand his criteria. It's obviously flawed. But my criteria is, if you were to watch this film as a group, how long would it stay with you? How many hours after the film would you want to talk about it? Just like The White Lotus Season 2, which last night at dinner, I had dinner with a bunch of besties, 8 people. Everybody had seen Season 2 of White Lotus. They couldn't stop talking about it for the first hour of dinner. Specific scenes, specific moments, what happened. This film is 100x that to White Lotus in terms of its importance and relevance. It will be dinner party discussions for hours afterwards. And what I love most about this film is that it challenges the viewer. It is not straightforward. Even the critics, the mighty critics who lord their lists upon us and tell us who is number one and who is number two, they can't make sense of this film. It's so hilarious to me. It proves the point that this film is so important that you have one set of critics saying that this is the absolute pinnacle of the discussion about an artist creating great art versus the behavior and the human being of the artist, whether it's Bach or it's, Kevin Spacey, pick a horrible human being who Harvey Weinstein, the artist versus the art. The power of social media, the generational difference between Gen Z, Gen X, and boomers is all on display here. The power dynamics, identity politics, everything is absolutely meditated on here, but they don't spoon feed it to you. You must take it in and interpret it for yourself. And that is the brilliance of the film Tar. And that is why it is number one, tied currently with Maverick. I will need to see both films again to make my ultimate decision. This is the goddamn film of the year, I believe. And Cate Blanchett wins the Best Actress. And A.O. Scott is absolutely drunk, asleep at the wheel for making it number 6 behind Neptune Frost. Neptune Frost is number 60
it's like
to this
fine.
being number 1. No. That's it. I'm done. I'm very excited about this film.
We're fine, and then we're not fine, and then we're fine again, and then we're not fine all over again, and then we're fine.
With this one.
Anyway, anybody want to react to my feelings, and then we'll get into spoilers. This is for the audience.
I think it's interesting. I think obviously everything you're saying is present. I mean, there's a big scene that's become very sort of famous where she's we're
going to spoiler territory. Here we go, spoiler territory.
I feel like a lot of the discussion of the film does sort of come back to like cancel culture, and it's about this person who's this very prominent, high status person and this scandal, and all of that is in the film. But to me, it's so much more about the internal psychology. It's really we're in Lydia Tarr's brain throughout the movie, and we're sort of seeing the impact on her of losing her grip and like realizing what kind of a person she's been, and this experience of watching it slip through her fingers and the panic and the fear. And to me, that's what it's more about that than necessarily like a treatise on what to do about this cancel culture. Like, I feel like there's a reductive, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm saying like in the culture more widely, I feel like there's been kind of an attempt to like put this movie in a box and like, oh, that's the problematic cancel culture wokeism movie.
It is
and
not
like,
that,
no,
Molly.
It's much more than that.
I agree. I think it's very reductive to put in that. I 100%. And I find it sort of disappointing. I mean, it's really interesting because like by the way, let's move into spoiler territory because we won't really be able now
to. You can fast forward to the end.
I think that one of the brilliant things about this movie is to use that narrative device among many as this sort of the most obvious lens to get where we're going with Lydia and her kind of coming apart. And it is kind of delightfully predictable that then the US media would be like, this is all about cancel culture and social media. When, first of all, social media hardly figures, right? It briefly figures as sort of a plot device to keep us moving toward her decompensation. And it is in some ways the easiest direction to go in when you have someone with this much power. Like someone with this much power, no matter who they are, is always going to have probably some abuse. Like they're always going to engage because power corrupts. They're going to engage in some kind of abuse. So it's just like, of course, that's how you get there.
And the film,
which isn't even to take away from that. It's so well set up and it's so taught how you get there. And it is a little bit unexpected. And so that makes it even more impactful. But yeah, like this, I'm all about this lady cracking from the way that power not only corrupts, but destroys.
There's a moment where towards the end, where she's getting a massage. She's got shoulder pain, and she goes to get a massage, and they line up all the masseuses, and they're like, pick the masseuse you want from out of the lineup.
In some Asian country that is not fully explained. Maybe it's Vietnam.
It's unnamed. Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out.
I thought somewhere Southeast Asia somewhere, but I don't think they put a fine point on Manila, maybe, or
maybe Manila,
Indonesia, Malaysia, somewhere like that. So, and she's picking it from this line, and it's all subtle. It's all you kind of read into it. It's not put a fine point on it, but it's all in Blanchett's performance, where she has this road of recognition of, this is what I've been doing to people my whole life. I've been lining them up, picking the one I want. I move people around like pawns. They're not even really human to me, and it's such a complicated idea to capture visually. Like that's what movies are about. If you could take something abstract that we've all felt or that we've all thought about and find a purely visual cinematic way with just an actor and a scenario,
what a great point,
visuals to bring it together, that's what movie making is sort of all about on the most fundamental level.
And the number 5.
Right. Well, the number 5 figures in symbolically.
The number 5 figures in because that's the movement that she's the whole movie is building up to this performance, this one, and like the foreboding is there from the first scenes with her, the interview where they say, you're going to give this historic performance. You're going to conduct this, Mahler's 5th, the number 5 in the series in 1 month. And you pretty much know immediately that it's all going to unravel over the course of that month.
Yes.
And then there's like this mysticism to that moment where the girl with the number 5 is the one who like looks up at her.
Right.
And makes her
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
In the lineup, and let's be clear, this lineup is kind of saying, I believe that this is a house of ill repute.
I don't know. I think it's the visual, like Todd Field shoots it and lines it up visually in a way that immediately suggests brothel. That's the image that we have. I don't know if he's necessarily saying it's because, again, we're refracting everything through Cate Blanchett's mind. And so that's what she's thinking about. But maybe this is just a massage parlor. I don't think we get any indication.
It's kind of,
sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, if you think about the numerical like ordering and ranking, that's what she's been doing with the orchestra as well. It's about who's in what chair, who gets what solo, who's in what seat. So that's always been her MO. She's always putting them in order, and
they're even arranged like that. Like they're arranged in a semicircle.
You're the next favorite.
Ooh, very good, Mom.
So much was happening. I mean, despite everything I said about how I personally thought it was too long. And I personally think if you're not engaged in Cate Blanchett's performance, you're not going to be able to get involved in this movie because it is so her.
Watch it in 2 sittings.
It's a 2-sitting movie. No. If you, maybe.
If you're at home. I did it in 2 sittings. I loved it.
You did? Jesus, how much time do you have in your life?
No, I watched it in 2 sittings because I was watching it with my partner.
Oh, you watched it over the course of. I thought you watched it twice in a row.
No, I'm going to watch it again. You guys,
I think a nice little 10-minute beat in the middle. I like,
very good.
But I don't
Molly,
like
finish your point.
separate sitting.
Okay, Molly, finish your point. And then I have a point to make.
The level of like care, every single detail, every single shot, every single self-referential moment, every single like realization that's unspooled is like taut. I mean, it's like a knife, which is crazy because I guess you have to unspool so tightly. And then it ends up at 2 hours and 40 minutes, which I know I should let go, but like, my God.
Take 10 minutes off that for the trailers, for the credits. Very interesting stylistic choice to put the credits at the start. Film aficionados will have a lot to say about that. It's not super important to most audiences, but I want to point out there was a New Yorker review. Who wrote the New Yorker review?
Ron? It's Richard Brody. Richard Brody is the New Yorker.
Richard Brody, okay, boomer, time to retire. He reduces this film. Richard Brody, I've now found a critic worse than A.O. Scott. Richard Brody. Please clip this. You can mention both of them. He reduces this film to being that it's championing in some way, like this right-wing anti Me Too movement or anti-identity politics is his point. And what I'll say,
such a shame.
This is the okay boomer moment for him when he needs to realize he's done as a film critic. He missed the point of the film. This point of the film is about narcissistic personality disorder and the descent into madness and the enablers of narcissists. I am not a professional film critic, and I got this. What's his kid's name again?
It's Richard Brody.
How old is Richard Brody? He's got to be over 65 or 70. It's an okay boomer moment.
A legend in the criticism game. He's been doing it for forever.
Please, man, please.
Forever is probably the key word.
I'm also.
Did you read his review?
Fan. I read his review. I'm not a huge Richard Brody fan.
What did you think of that review?
I agree with you.
Missed the point.
It's doing the thing that I was basically saying before, which is I think there is it's easy to sort of put this movie in the box of like social commentary movie about cancel culture, but
it's not about
that. That's a very limited, narrow view of what I think Todd Field is really doing here.
Okay.
I was going to say about
hold on. Let me just finish my point on this, and then I'm going to hand it up to you because I have a lot to say. But this is about narcissistic personality disorder. This is about somebody who has an EGOT, right? They've won everything. They've crafted this image of themselves, and they have a blind spot. They don't realize they have narcissistic personality disorder. That's the whole point of that disease. And you look at everybody around you as objects, as tools to be manipulated like pieces on a chessboard. Now, some of the chess pieces are more important than others to her. Maybe her daughter, maybe her partner, maybe the latest fling in her orchestra. All of these different pieces, though, are chess pieces in her game to build a brand that is Tar. And this film is more analogous. It is not about cancel culture. It is not about identity politics. It's about what you see in a film like The Conversation, Taxi Driver, Macbeth, Full Metal Jacket, Falling Down, The Shining. It's about the descent into madness of a person who is so obsessed with themselves and whatever they're building in the world. That is what this film is about. And it is going to go down in the pantheon of films in descent into madness when people make a list about characters losing it. Taxi Driver, Full Metal Jacket. Well, I don't know what else you put in there, Lon, because you're better at this than I am. Conversation, Shining. This will be in that 10 list of descents into madness performances. And that is what the film is ultimately about. And when I write my review, it's going to be better prose, but I'm workshopping it here. Go ahead, Lon. And then Molly will do ratings.
Say Richard Brody was on
best scenes.
Yeah, he was on everybody's crap list earlier this year because he was the guy that wildly seems to have misunderstood Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. I don't know if you guys watched that Nathan Fielder show.
Yes.
But he was writing reviews every week like, this experiment isn't scientifically valid. You're not going to figure out how to rehearse. But he was like criticizing it if it's
the Milgram experiment.
Being offered at face value, and it's like, no, Nathan Fielder's a comedian, sir. This is a comedy show.
This isn't the Stanford Milgram experiment, right?
We're not actually doing science. This is to make you giggle like Borat. I don't know how you could miss that.
It's actually pretty funny because through that lens, the idea that he would do both of these as such a Captain Literal exploration is
it's
pretty interesting. Because then there's a whole other element to this film that I'm so glad that Lon brought up in our chat before, because I stayed up way too late after watching it, reading about this back half of the movie. And the idea, again, spoiler territory, the idea that when she's kind of chasing the new cellist and she falls and smashes her face open, that might be the moment where the rest of the movie is not actually real anymore.
I didn't hear that. That's a great
critic
premise.
On Slate has written this, and then it sort of built and took on a life of its own on the internet. The idea being that, and it is true, the third act takes larger sort of leaps from reality. Things start to spiral and get a little bit more dreamlike, surreal. They're mentioning that scene where she's kind of lost and there's this big dog barking at her and it's almost shot like a horror film. There are moments where a ghost appears. There's a character in the film who has taken her own life, possibly because of her treatment by Lydia Tarr. And at several scenes of the movie, if you look closely in the background, there appears to be a person.
There's
my God, I didn't see that.
She's freaking there. Look at the other ones. Okay, so there's that one, and then there's another one.
Yeah. There are a few
the next one.
Or suggestions, or even just like scenes where there's a person, a redhead that we only see from behind watching her. And it could be just a regular passerby, but we know that this dead girl had red hair.
So this is another one where she's sort of like in the...
Right.
background. And these are these nights where she keeps waking up and hearing these weird noises. See?
Right. So there are already kind of creepy.
There are already these like supernatural vibes.
Or when she goes for the jog and she hears screaming and she goes and chases it. We forgot that one. When she does go to the basement following her latest love interest or potential love interest. And it's like in a basement where she doesn't actually live. And you're like, well, where did she go? Is she traveling through an abandoned building?
I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that this is happening in like a supernatural world. I think, again, it's like we're so in her head that this could be his way
of descent into madness.
That visualizing her feelings of guilt, her feelings of life slipping out of control, a break from reality. But I do think you can read it as, no, she's actually either in a dream or in a supernatural
world. I don't buy that.
And I don't buy that. Like, there are also those people who have you read the really, really upsetting theory that like all of the Harry Potter stories are actually this poor kid in a mental institution? Is horrible.
Yeah,
it's horrific.
So
there's always somebody who will. But I think 100%, like the levels of her psychosis are clearly on display in that second half of the movie. But also, just like super side note, many times in the very beginning and then throughout, we see the cellist, Olga, I think her name is, and she's messaging. First of all, what is that app where she can like message over a real-time picture?
That's
they kind of made their own social app. It's live streaming with her chat on top of it. Yeah.
She's messaging with someone about Lydia.
Right.
Yes.
Who clearly seems to know her. Like there's that weird exchange in the beginning. It's like, so you still love her? And then it's like, maybe. And that is never explained. That's just happening. And you're like, wait, is she a plant? Did she already know Lydia? Like, is she messaging
This is such a great observation. I can tell you what's happening. This is part of the descent into madness. What's happening, Molly, and I'm glad you brought this up. This is a very astute point again. There are multiple times in the films where, Cate Blanchett's character is on her private jet from her benefactors. And you have to wonder, all these benefactors are obsessed with her out of some virtue signaling because they love, her as a conductor and they love the concept of her as a conductor.
They're patrons.
So they're patrons who know of her discretions and are enabling it. That's what we find out later in the movie. They're so cynical, these patrons, that they want her to be something to them, in terms of what she represents. Because the film makes this point, there's never been a female conductor. She's a lesbian female conductor. They want to build her up, knowing she's flawed, knowing that she's got all these, problematic issues. And that's a whole nother side note of the enabling of narcissists. But you're right. There's a group of people who are on the other side of it who are using Cate Blanchett. There are a group of people who are using her to an end, like her assistant who wants to be the second conductor, who they kind of allude to. I don't know if I'm reading into this, that maybe they had a relationship.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah.
Because she's perturbed when she's talking to another young potential liaison. And then there's her wife or partner that she has a daughter with, who is also an enabler.
Suggestion there, yeah.
100%.
And she's an enabler who's like, when she finds out that she's got another girlfriend or another problem or another Me Too problem or another problematic problem, she's like, why? She's not upset that she's having affairs. She's upset she didn't come to her so they could brainstorm it and figure out how to get past it. Like they did with their relationship.
Right.
When she became the female conductor and she was with the first, whatever they call the first chair or something.
Yeah, the first chair.
This is a very key point. There were a group of people who were realizing Cate Blanchett is problematic, her character Tar, and they're recording her covertly. They're building up their book of evidence, and then they're also trying to use her. And so that is the disgusting reality that we all have to face, or that the movie tries to put in our face. There are people trying to use her, and she's using them, and it's all gross and horrible.
It's also notable that a lot of the people in the film, not Lydia Tar specifically, but a lot of the other people around her are supposed to be modeled on real life people. Todd Field is making, like, the one that's really notable is Mark Strong. Mark Strong is playing a guy named Elliot Kaplan, who's he's great investment banker who desperately wants to be a composer. There's a real guy named Gil Kaplan, who that's basically his story. He's a very wealthy banker who sort of bought his way into the conducting world, and he's conducted Mahler's Second Symphony, but it's not very well regarded by people in the world of conducting. So if you are a classical music aficionado, you right away clock to Mark Strong is supposed to be That's the real
even
guy.
Looks just like him.
This poor guy.
And well, this gentleman passed away in 2016, so he doesn't have
thank
to
God
see
he didn't
Mark
see this
Strong
film.
play him in a movie. But there's also examples of conductors who've married their violinists from their orchestras. Like a lot of the elements in this movie, Todd Field must be a classical music fan. He
must be deep
from
that is the other note too, which is that it's so interesting that this is such a generational study, because I think any Gen Z reviewer, like if you put a Gen Z review next to the Richard Brody review, they are going to be completely different reviews, right? There are like totally different storylines depending on what age you are and what mindset you bring to this movie. However, the composer universe, the like density of the immersion into the classical music and specifically like composer reference universe.
Yeah.
That's a big wall for somebody to get past in those first few minutes. It's brilliant. Like it's pitch perfect, no pun intended. But like to open a movie with a New Yorker author playing himself, interviewing her, that is so freaking referential. That I was like, okay, this must be a version of satire, but it's also so dense that I could imagine a Gen Z like just turning it off.
Trying to like write stuff like that just blows me away. Like you'd have to make it sound authentic. Like what you have to come up with a conversation that a New Yorker expert and the world's greatest conductor would have on a stage in front of an audience. Yeah, but
you know what, Lon? In fairness, the screenplay writer got early access to ChatGPT. So
thank
you. Man. Call back to this week's big show. Okay.
This is why the humans are still okay. Actually.
Have you seen his other films, by the way? Have you guys
I want to get to that. But first, hold on. I got to take this around the horn again, because this film is so amazing. Your favorite scene is going to be my first question. Then we're going to move. Sorry to take over the moderation here, but I'm very passionate now. I want to know everybody's favorite scene. And then I'm going to go around again for your second favorite scene. We're doing 2 rounds of favorite scene. Then we'll talk about the controversial ending and what actually happened at the end.
Yeah.
Molly, sorry to be part of the toxic masculinity that my daughter accuses me of. But ladies first, what is your favorite scene? If I may say ladies first. I don't know. Would that get me canceled?
I think it's fine.
It's okay.
I think it's
ladies
fine.
First, go.
Yeah. I suspect we are going to have a same favorite scene occurring.
Okay.
Because my literal favorite scene that I will watch 1,000,000 times over and try to replicate constantly in my whole life is when she threatens a little girl at her daughter's school.
In German.
Explain what happens.
German. She realizes, and there's so much happening here that's also really interesting, because she's like clearly on the road a lot. She's kind of absent. The other mom is doing the bulk of the parenting, but she is the one who gets the daughter to admit that she's being bullied at school. Like they play this game in the car because the other mom is like, she won't say anything. I don't know why she's coming home with these bruises on her shins. And then Lydia, through this kind of special connection that she has with this little girl, gets her to admit it. By the time they get to school, she's figured out that not only is her kid getting bullied, but she's getting bullied by Johanna. And she approaches Johanna on the playground, says, I'm her father. And if you come for her again, she does this all in perfect German. And it's like,
scene.
If I hear about this again, I will get you. And if you tell an adult about this, they will not believe you because I'm an adult.
It is so
believe
sinister.
me when I say that I will get you. It's so sinister, and it's exactly how she wields power everywhere else around her, except in this case, she's making it 100% explicit.
She also self-identifies as the girl's father, which is
super interesting.
Twist.
That was amazing.
Her first thing. It's like, I'm her father.
Yes. So therefore, this violence is in some way justified or more real to you, 6-year-old. Because I am the violent father.
In that scenario, I mean, there's so many layers to that of like calling herself the girl's father.
There's a lot.
Your favorite scene?
So many. There is a scene late in it that I feel like is just a perfect like expression of what this movie is, because it's very dark, but it's also very funny, and it gives you a lot of insight into who this person is. the whole movie, she's been sort of irritated by her neighbors. Like she's got issues with the neighbors. And at one point they come over and they ask her, please stop playing music. We're showing the apartment. And
above
we don't want to show the apartment while you're playing music, not realizing that is a world-class musician who people pay $1,000 to listen to. So she takes out an accordion and plays an original song called Apartment for Sale. That's in the credits, credited to Cate Blanchett. She wrote that song. It's such a great moment.
It's incredible.
So great.
Really funny beat. I love it.
It's a little strange because she is playing an accordion. And she's playing it out of tune and yelling and screaming. Yeah. I thought if I was a director, I would have had her play something perfect and stunning and recognizable. Like
because she's a wreck by that point. Like,
no, I know. That shows her psychotic break. Yes,
right.
That is.
Early in the movie, she would have worried, how is this going to sound? At that point, it's just
I just thought it would have been better to be like, I'm going to help you sell your apartment by playing the most perfect thing ever. So the person was like, oh my God, this is delightful. But I agree. That was a polarizing moment. There's so many tiny moments in here. There are two tiny moments that came up for me. There's one where she's having lunch and she's such a control freak that she's trying to get her new love interest, the cellist. She a cellist, I think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it's a cellist.
The cellist who, and these two go together, this cellist love interest that shows up in the middle of the film, she tells her to get the cucumber salad. And she's like, no, I want more bread. I want more carbs. I want whatever. And
the veal.
Mm-hmm. And Cate Blanchett is like losing her mind that she can't dictate to this person she just met. She then loses her mind because she wants to see her performance and she wants to get the album of her performance. And she's like, oh, no, it's on YouTube. And then she has to go watch it on YouTube. And it's also breaking her heart, breaking her brain that she has to watch a YouTube video to see this person's performance. And then the moment where she the same thing, I'll go to the second and then you guys can add if you want. But I think we're good with scenes. There's this amazing moment where this cellist, she wants to replace the best cellist in the orchestra. This is a very polarizing moment. She loses her orchestra because she's like, you know what? We should just have a contest or whatever.
Audition.
She says they're going to audition for the solo in this cello piece rather than just usually the first cellist would do the solo.
Very polarizing. She then sandbags it because you may not know this, but this was in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, Blink, I believe. When they do these auditions, they do them behind a curtain so other information can't bias you. The person's attractiveness, their height, their gender, whatever, hair color, style. But she sees just out of the corner of her eye, like the shoes, and she knows the sound of the woman's shoes because she ran into her in the bathroom or something, and she sandbags it and picks her because she has a love interest in her. But then the person happens to be so good that everybody in the orchestra actually loves her anyway. So it just shows like these crazy power dynamics just all at once. And I thought those were like really interesting. Should we go to the ending of the film?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. So then, so she has her whole downfall, which may or may not be a psychotic break. And then ends up, goes to sort of a publicist firm and they're like, we're going to do a reset for you. And then we see her in a stunning fall from grace in this unidentified Southeast Asian country. And she has been engaged for a gig and she's taking it really seriously. And we see her studying the music and like leading, doing rehearsals with the orchestra and saying like, what does this mean for you? Really doing her like maestro thing. And then she comes out, she's doing her getting ready thing. She's like the same level of nerves and kind of OCD behaviors that she has throughout the film, puts her headset on, begins conducting. And you realize that she is conducting a live Monster Hunter orchestra. All these, she's surrounded by, it's cosplay. She's surrounded by people in these monsters. This is like
Monster Hunter is a video game franchise. So it's
a video game franchise.
Concert of music.
Oh, it is actually something that exists in the real world?
Oh, Monster Hunter, absolutely very real.
I thought they just did that as like, here's a random cosplay.
These things happen
Yeah, if you know it well, the pan where they're showing you the costumes is actually the reveal. Because if fans catch that joke, if they recognize everybody's dressed like Monster Hunter right away, for the rest of us, we need to wait until we see the name on the screen in the background. But yes, Monster Hunter is a real video game franchise.
This is like this is the extra generational genius of this movie.
Yes.
Because it is a real franchise. These things are an actual, like, cultural phenomenon.
These concerts. Real. Yeah.
And so if you get the joke, there's a universe where you sit through the 2 hours and 40 minutes and it's all an elaborate setup for one giant joke. Like laugh out loud joke. Like there's so much happening.
What I love about this ending.
It's crazy.
And I know it's controversial, but what I love about the ending is it shows, like, remember they dropped that she got an EGOT in the beginning, she got an Emmy, she got a Tony, she got an Oscar, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that this might be like, there's a movie, she did one of these things for money, and that she actually is the composer of the music. Therefore, even when she falls from grace and is totally canceled by the establishment, that these video game crazy people halfway around the world she can secure the bag from them. And the cynical, her cynical PR team is like, here's our plan to bring you back, as if she's Kevin Spacey or Louis C.K. or something. And they're like, yeah, we'll start with a video game halfway around the world and try to rebuild your thing. And you can still be employable in the way Louis C.K. can still do shows, right? Like, he's still employable despite what happened to him. They're kind of making...
He's nominated for Grammys now.
And Lon, what do you think, though, about the reviewer interpretation that this was actually her getting back to the thing, like where she started, where the true love of the music, because she's putting the same level of effort in that she would put into her Mahler, and that maybe actually this is a reset in all kinds of ways. It's her rebirth, because she's like, actually, I just love this and I don't need all of the private jet stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice to not, like, a lot of filmmakers and a lot of movies doing this kind of a story, I think would leave you at the low point. That she's lost everything, where to go from here. You can even picture how you would end that version of the movie. A close up on Cate Blanchett's face as she's reached the absolute rock bottom.
The end of The Shining when he's frozen.
Yeah, exactly.
You do that shot, which would have come, which they did put in the film. When she knocks the banker off the podium and it's mine, I thought that was the end of the film.
Right.
Remember that she charges out?
Yes.
Didn't you think that was the end? Like, she's so crazy. She showed up and pushed him off that.
Kubrick shot a final scene that is not in the film. Never. It was briefly. He cut it like the day before the film hit theaters. You're in a hospital and you're tracking down the hospital corridor, and you hear something thumping against the wall, but you don't know what it is. And then you pass by Shelley Duvall. She's in one of the beds, and a doctor is there, and he's like, "Danny's going to be fine. It's just a little, like concussion or whatever it's giving her. You're both going to be okay." But then you keep panning, and you see the thumping is Danny has a ball, and he's throwing it against the wall and catching it, like Jack Nicholson was doing earlier.
So
in the
now
film.
He's got the madness.
Right.
No idea why Kubrick decided not to cut that, but he decided to cut that, and he ends it with the close in on the Jack Nicholson.
That would have been a better ending, wouldn't it have?
It would have been.
I really like that.
But back to this. So this could either be her lowest point, or it could be her redemption arc, because she also, I just realized, not only is she putting all the reviewers pointed out, she's putting all this care into it, she's rediscovering her love for the music, but she also rediscovers her moral compass, as evidenced by the fact that the scene with the goldfish full of women, or the fishbowl, makes her throw up in the street instead of be like, oh, I'll just take number 5, which is what she would have done if she were
previously,
still in Berlin.
I think that's what he's doing. I think rather than ending it on the low point, he gives us this little epilogue as it is a little bit of a, like, there's potential for this might not be the end of her life. This might be the start of a new phase. And we know that she has reinvented herself at least once before. When she goes home and talks to her brother, her name is not Lydia Tarr. She made that up. That's a character she's been playing. She was Linda something. And so I think that the idea is, well, maybe this Lydia Tarr phase was just a phase, and we're going to move into the next version,
which is even more challenging for the audience. I didn't get that this was a redemption thing at the end. This is why this movie is so fascinating.
It's ambiguous. I think it's ambiguous.
But there's so much ambiguity here. And do I want her to be redeemed? So then that hits that whole theme of like, should you ever be able to come back from being a narcissistic, horrible, abusing, evil person in the world, and then under what circumstances we haven't figured that out as a society.
Suicide. Exactly. Like this movie is so. It's like the is it Jasper Johns who painted the American flag and revealed it, and it's just a painting of the flag, and people were like, "What are you saying with this? What do you mean by this?
About. What do you looks like an old flag?"
And he's like, "It's the flag. It's whatever you want it to be." And people were like, "It's a statement about this. It's anti-war. It's da-da-da." And he was like, "It's just the flag." That's like how this movie is. This movie is just like, I've got it all.
Let's rate the film.
You decide.
And that's what I think is so disappointing about the Brody. It's like he's trying to be like, the film is saying this. And I think it's looking at this complicated, nuanced thing through the lens of this very complicated person. And it's just asking questions. It's Tucker Carlson.
It's just asking questions. It's the Jordan Peterson of movies.
I don't think it's saying, here's the answer.
I thought this was more, this is weird. Like people want to make it left or right leaning. I thought it was trying to go right down the middle and just say, here's the problem we are faced with as a society. These are the issues we're contending with. And also, here's a descent into madness. Enjoy.
We're not trying to assign it the Tucker Carlson and Jordan Peterson. I was just saying it's just asking questions. And I think this movie legitimately is unlike them, to be clear.
Unlike them, yes. Okay, good clarification. Okay, now we go to scoring. There'll be no 8s.
No 8s.
I know nobody's given it a 7.5. So here we go. It's going to be 8.5 and above. Spoiler alert. Out of 10. And I do give 10s to films. I'm just putting it out there. I don't give 10 to employees or team members. I always want to keep them a little hungry. I'll give a 9.5, 9.75.
There's no chance of that.
There's no chance of that. But in films, I will give it 10. There can be perfect films. I do believe Top Gun Maverick is a perfect film. I give it a 10 of 10. Here we go. Going around the horn. Lon, we'll start with you. Your score out of 10. I don't know if you are opposed to scores as a critic yourself, but let's try.
I would give it. I mean, I would be very sparing with a 10. I think you could give them, but I think that you're talking top film of the several years of the decade, maybe would be a 10. Okay. So I'm going to go. I think 9.5 for Tar. I think that's a fair. I think it's one of the best films of the year. I think your theory that when we're looking back on the decade in film, it's going to be one of those titles, I think is probably correct.
Okay.
I think that happens with some of the Little Children and In the Bedroom also are on that level, and people regard them that way. So I don't think
9.5. Got it.
That shocking. So yeah, I think that's fair.
And on your top 10 list, where does it fall? I know you're still working on it.
I can tell you exactly because I keep a running top 10 list going all year.
Oh, and your notes app or something? You keep it in, right?
I do. It's a Google Doc.
Okay, where are you
right now? It is my number 6 movie. I have it in the A.O. Scott slot. It's number 6 of the year.
Wow.
You want to hear the top 10? I can read it to you.
Give me the top 5 above it. Just so I can.
Mad God is number 1. The incredible stop motion animated epic, which I heartily recommend. That's on Shudder right now. If Phil Tippett, the special effects master of Star Wars, Jurassic Park, he made this stop motion animated film.
Okay. And quickly through the 2 through 6, 2 through 5.
Okay, I'll go quickly. Number 2, Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave. It is a neo-noir detective thriller romance from Korea. Number 3, After Yang. That's Kogo Nada's incredible sci-fi drama with Colin Farrell. That's on Showtime right now. Number 4, Resurrection with Rebecca Hall, also on Shudder. A thriller with her and Tim Roth, psychological thriller. Terrifying but brilliant. And number 5, Nope, the Jordan Peele sci-fi horror film from over the summer.
Molly, give us a score here. What do you got?
I'm going 9.2.
Okay.
I think it is all of the things we said it is, and also it's too long. I'm sorry, that's a real thing.
I'm going to say I don't think Maverick's a 10. Actually, I take it back. I want to reserve my 10 after Lon told me. I'm going to give both of these films are 9.5s right now. Both of them require a second viewing a year from now for me to really engage in them. But, for me, like a Blade Runner, Gladiator, Goodfellas, those come to mind as my 10s, but I need years. The Master comes out and There Will Be Blood come out. It's 10s for me as films. It just takes a little more time for me to see the film a second or third time. But I'm going to give them both 9.5s. I think this is an incredible film. Thanks for coming, Lon. You should all watch it. It's a very important film.
You should all watch it. Definitely.
You should all watch it. It's
definitely.
Versus Neptune Frost. Like, I don't think many people will enjoy Neptune Frost. You'll be challenged by it, but this is a different thing. You will enjoy this if you give it time. Do an intermission if you need to.
All right. I'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.